It's a sad day for us here at the How Long to Beat podcast. Alyx, Paula, and I are reeling at the news that the 3DS and Wii U eShops are disappearing. 3DS and Wii U, you say, as though you'd forgotten they existed? How dare you? We, once we've talked about our beatens, retired, and playings, are going to be doing a deep dive into the 3DS because, jokes aside, nobody gives a fuck about the Wii U. We're going to talk about our memories, the good games, the bad games, the in-betweens, the Rodea Sky Soldiers of the 3DS, if you will. And we're just going to reminisce and have a good time and hopefully send you away with some recommendations to pick up in the next couple of months while you can still buy games on that shop. Or, go sail the 7 seas and find them that way. We don't give a fuck. And clearly neither does Nintendo. What a way to introduce the podcast. Goddamn. The irony is, I'm talking about how sad we are. I've got Alyx on the screen giving me the big thumbs up and a cheesy grin because the recording actually worked this time.
We've had some technical difficulties as we started this episode today.
You could say we've gone through multiple loops.
Yes. Is that my segue?
That's your segue into Deathloop, your completion this week, Alyx.
Yeah, so I beat Deathloop like honestly right before we started recording. Like I was just like, all right, I'm gonna go through this, try to play it today. I felt like I was pretty close to the end of it, but I wasn't entirely sure, and I don't know. This game doesn't feel like it comes together in the way that they want it to, I think.
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah, like I really enjoyed playing it. Like the overall experience is very fun. It's just that you kind of like ultimately at the end of it, I still don't really get what's going on. I still have no idea really. I've kind of figured it out, right? Like I sort of know who these people are a little bit. I get a general sense. There's kind of a reveal that's like not really. I didn't care. And you know what I mean? And like ultimately, and I think that comes down to the issue that it's basically all environmental storytelling, which can be awesome. But this environmental storytelling is mostly through reading and like the audio logs. Like it's kind of BioShocky. Yeah. And I'm like, we're sort of past this, right? Like, I'm like, we're kind of past this point now. Like BioShock did it. So like, can we try something a little different? And the loops are really interesting. And like, I did think it was kind of cool that like, ultimately you have to like figure out what's the optimal loop and like, what do you have to do in that run to get that. And like, I think technically it might guide you more, but I kind of just, there's like one particular like quest path that I was just like, I don't need to do that. Cause like, I can just come in guns hot and figure this out. Like, you know what I mean? So I was like, whatever. And it's like very finicky. So I was like, I don't give a shit. And so like I went through, beat it. The aesthetic is wonderful. The visual styling is great. I mean, it looked awesome on this, it was the thing testing out my PC, right? And it looks awesome. It works wonderfully on the PC. But yeah, I don't know what it is. Like, I think part of it comes down to the fact that because you have 4 zones and they're 4 times of the day, and you're trying to figure out these kind of secrets throughout them, you just sometimes, if you don't like really optimally do something, which can happen, occasionally you just like you miss something or you're like, oh, fuck, I guess that happens if I do this. Then you just have to kind of replay a bunch of these areas. And so ultimately you end up playing through certain times of the day in certain locations a lot. Especially the like endish area, and you just get to a point where I was like, oh, I fucking know, like I gotta do that and I do this and I do that, and I'm like, and like I didn't feel any desire. Like you have these cool slabs and powers, but I actually don't think I used almost any except for like 2 of them, or maybe 3 total, because ultimately they restrict you. Like your double jump is a character, like it's a trinket that you get. You can slot in 4 skills. And so you need to have this thing called shift so you can like climb and go all over the place. And so that uses up one of it. So ultimately you really only have like one other slot open for a special power. So there's like no incentive, I guess, to really experiment. And like when you find guns that work for you, like what happened to me is you have 3 gun slots. And look, I found a gun that's like a SMG that's silenced. that thing was fucking, it's goated. Like, it just, because you can just fucking headshot people so easily, and they don't notice that anything's happening. So you're just like, and then if anyone does come at you, you're just like, all right, I've got my big shotgun, bam, bam, bam. You know, like, I just got to the point where I was like, there's not a real reason for me to be super stealthy. I can be a little stealthy, but like, I don't know, you know, like, it's just, something didn't fully click. And like, I still think it's worth playing. I probably played it a little longer than you have to. Like, I think you can get through this game in like 14 hours probably. I was about 17 because I was like, you know, futzing around a few times. But I see no reason to go back once you've done it. I guess you could like optimize further and like get even more stuff and cool guns and things, but like, what the fuck's the point? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how I felt on it. And so I don't know, I'm being like harsh on this, but like ultimately I'd give it like an 8. I think it's just, I guess I just expect so much from Arcane, you know what I mean? And like Dishonored, Prey, like these are some of my favorite games out there. And like, this has all the hallmarks of Arcane's work, and it's obviously a very, you know, beautifully created game. But it just, something just didn't click for me in this one. Like, I think I was missing, I don't know, I think I would have just liked a little more story stuff, you know? Like, I felt like these visionaries are these people you're going to kill, but you don't really learn that much about them in the end. Like, everything you learn about them is from environmental storytelling, and I guess that's because you can interact with them at any time. But it's like, there are occasional moments where you can see scenes playing out between them, but that's just you in the area while stuff's happening, and that's actually really cool. But like, I kind of wish there was more of that. Like, I was just missing a little more story, you know? Like, I guess that's it. Where I'm just like, I need a little more of a reason why I'm doing this, because ultimately it feels like I don't understand why I'm doing this. Yeah.
So it's kind of ironic because the main criticism that I often hear is that it's remarkably linear given the setup. Like, there is a right way to do it. It's not like you have to hit X, Y, and Z in an allotted amount of time and you have so many moves around. And, you know, can you find different ways to do it? Can you be creative? And that's something that they did so well with Prey, with like different ways of accessing certain rooms, using the glue gun to sort of break traversal and stuff like that. Ditto with the foam darts and things like that. Would you say that sort of was fair? And I suppose that, do you see the irony there in terms of that linearity maybe being something that they could have done if they'd given a better story and used that as an excuse, sort of thing?
Yeah, it's full on accurate. Like, it's a quite linear game. Because ultimately there's only one way to beat it. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's only one way that you could beat this game. You can approach it in a few different ways, but like, ultimately the path that you will take at the end is going to be the same path everyone does. How they do it, obviously that will vary depending on what you're using and whatnot, but the actual steps that will be taken, and the like you're going to kill this person first, you're going to do this thing next, you're going to go here next, you're going to do this, et cetera, right? And like, that has to happen. There's no variation in that. So your lead up to that moment, that's varied, and it you know, how you approach it is completely on your own. But ultimately the end goal is quite linear. So I don't know. I think, like, I don't know how they could have done it another way, without maybe making it frustrating. Like, I never felt super frustrated in the game, so I have to give it props for that. Like, I did always kind of feel like I knew what I was supposed to be doing next. But you're right, there is quite a bit of linearity to it, and I don't know, they probably could have just leaned into it more. The fact that it's like, look, ultimately it's all going to come down to this, so just like, let's give you a couple more like checkpointed, you know, cutscenes. Because really what happens is, like, when you discover something about one of the visionaries, who are these like assassination targets, you'll get like a cool animated kind of cutscene thing talking about what you just discovered. But it's just kind of telling you what you already know, right? Like, you're like, oh, I'm going to do this to kill this person. And so you're like, well, okay, I know that. Like, I figured that out. Like, that's what I just did. So it's like, maybe instead you could have given me a cutscene revealing a little more about me, or like, you know, cutscene revealing more about who these people are, what my relationship with them is. Like, ultimately I figured it out by the end, but it's still super unsatisfying, you know? Like, you're like, oh, okay. And then it leaves on a really cool ending. Like, anyway, I hope they play in this universe a little more, because the ending's really cool. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like so close, right? Like, do you know how sometimes those games are the most disappointing, where you're like, this is really good and I really like it, but it feels like it's just so like almost like really perfect awesome, right? Like instead it's just like this is a good solid game. Like I definitely don't regret picking it up and playing it now. Like but yeah, I don't know. That's all. If people are thinking about playing this game, I would recommend it. But also know that it's like it's coming to Game Pass, right? Like we know this at some point in the future. So like if you can wait, go ahead. Me, I was impatient. It was on sale, and I was like, nah, I want to play now on this new PC. Anyway, who wants to take it out? Paula, you beat Slime Rancher? Can you
I
beat
beat
that
Slime
game?
Rancher, and yeah, you can beat Slime Rancher. You can finish the game and see the credits. That's exactly what I did. So to beat the game, you pretty much have to read and see where the previous rancher owner ended their journey, and pretty much where they ended and started a new journey, and read like the last of what I assume to be the main character's ex partner. I'd say partner because it is left like ambiguous, like their gender. So I'm gonna treat them as them. So overall, it was very interesting, like to find all these notes to see what was the story of the previous farmer on this far ranch or far planet, and just the overall gameplay loop of just like tending to your slimes, catching more slimes, and then doing a slime science because you can do slime science was pretty cool. And the other characters you meet, and well, I say you meet, but you pretty much just talk to them via mail, and then you get access to their farms by completing requests for them, and then on those farms you are able like to do more quests and to have a every so slightly different experience than in your main ranch. For example, there was this I already talked about the Quicksilver rancher, but there was another one that was researching like these virus kind of slimes because he was developing like this computer program where he could like recreate the far ranch and pretty much run simulations on it. But then you have this little slime that is pretty much a computer virus and takes into the appearance of the other slimes or even items on the environment. Pretty much you have to see if anything is wrong, you have to attack it with like a special kind of substance and then like vacuum the slime up and then bring it back into the real world for research for the slime researcher. And that was pretty cool. Now, I have to say, they could make the emergency exits a little bit more accessible sometimes, because once I lost my entire pack of slimes because I fell into the water because I didn't know how to get into the portal, and it was like a literal stairs that ended on nothing, and I fell to the ground.
Oh my gosh.
Or I fell into the water, and like just hunting those little slimes, those little rascals was a lot of fun, because I don't know if you ever watched the Pokemon anime, but if you see one of those slimes, it has like the Ditto face, that like the two dots and the line instead of the actual face of the slime. So it's like, hey, you look sus. Okay, yeah, it was an imposter. Bring all those little glitchy slimes back here. And those fuckers are like super fast and like duplicate. So if you don't catch them all, then good luck. And then the program starts like corrupting, and you have to get the hell away from there because the tars, these like big slimes that eat other slimes and also try to eat ranchers, start like spawning out of nowhere. You have to get the hell away from there. Um, I wasn't expecting to talk so much about that little mini game out there, but it was quite entertaining just to like track down all those glitchy slimes. And in the end, once you oh, and there was the other rancher for which you had to hand like those sable-toothed slimes, which you can have. I don't think you can have on your ranch because they are like what they call largos, that are like, I want to say hybrid slimes that are bigger than normal, so you can't vacuum them up and you have to like carry them to a corral.
Mm.
And they are quite aggressive, so yeah, no, not dealing with that. But after like adventuring so much, discovering each nook and cranny of the island, after restoring the glass desert to its former glory by reactivating the oasis with ancient water that I got from some fountains in the desert, I've finally got to the final message, to where the previous rancher left this place and finished their journey, and I received the final note from Casey, and then it was all over. Roll credits. It was quite the adventure. I really recommend this game if you want like something like adventurous but still like kind of chill. And the slimes are just adorable. Like they are like always happy in a way, so it's kind of like contagious. So it's like those games that is like, oh, okay, you have like, maybe you had a bad day, or you just want to start a day with the right food. Play Slime Rancher. I really hope that the end of the story of Slime Rancher 2 isn't as abrupt as in this game. But I'm really hyped for that sequel, really. So enough of me talking about slimes. Rick, what did you beat? I see you have something
I'm trying
very
to think of a
interesting.
really good segue, and it's just not quite happening at the moment. So yeah, I beat 2 games. First of which you'll be intimately familiar with, Paula, because it was one of yours last week, and that's It Takes Two. Oh, what a ride! The
Yeah, I
pace
think I'll
of it's
be
quite
beating it
interesting.
next week.
Yeah, I can imagine. How far are you in, Alyx?
I think we're right near the end. Oh no, like the last third of the game. We're at the time, like we just beat the time stuff.
Oh, the clock tower,
Yeah.
as it
Ooh,
were. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're getting there.
I think
Yeah,
we
you're
have
getting
like
there.
3 chapters or something like I've checked like how many chapters and stuff there are, so
I did exactly the same. I'll be real.
I
So
always do that.
it's interesting because once you get to that point, it feels like the game actually gets a lot of momentum as it comes towards the end. And then, although the ending feels a little bit abrupt, like the experience as a whole is just phenomenal. There are so many little moments of fun. I love all the little diversions of games they have to play. I feel like everything I want to talk about in the game is sort of a spoiler of something that I want the people listening at home just to discover on their own when they go and play this game. So I'm not really going to dwell on it too much, just except to reiterate what we've all said repeatedly, which is this is an excellent game. There's a reason it was so acclaimed when it first came out, and you should absolutely find someone to play it with and play it. The other game, which I'm a little bit softer on, is Crimson Shroud, which I finally beat. I think there's an expectation of playing it again to get a better ending. Because I finished it up and got what feels like a bad end, although the credits rolled. I'm not really sure I want to play it again. I might at some point, but it. I suppose I'll reiterate what I said last time, which is I quite like the combat in isolation. I really like the story in and of itself. I feel like as a package, it just feels like hard work. Because there aren't so much puzzles to solve as there are like random chance events and RNG checks and really random things that you would have no way of intuiting or knowing that you need to get past to make progress on the game world. doesn't really fit with the way that the game presents itself in terms of text-based information and these battles that sort of happen separately in and of themselves. And I think as a whole, the package suffers. It has a lot of really cool ideas. The story is really, really well done, both in terms of writing and in terms of sort of the overall structure. I think the game as a whole falls short. I think it's less than the sum of its parts, and it's definitely well worth checking out because it's done in such a way that I think very few other games try. But I enjoyed my 6 or so hours with the game. I'm not really sure I want to spend another 6 or so seeing the good end. The rub is, because it wasn't that big a deal over in the West, I can't seem to find a good end playthrough on YouTube. So do I go back? Do I not? I don't know yet. But that's where I'm at with that one. Speaking of whether we're going back or not, Alyx, why don't you tell us about your horrific, truly disappointing retirement?
Hold on.
Alyx.
First of all, Paula and I are very ashamed of you and disappointed in you.
Okay, you haven't even started yet, so wait. No, hold on. Yeah, so I'm putting on, like, I put it in the retirement just because I'm technically putting it aside, but I'm not retiring it in the traditional sense. Like, I'm putting Shin Megami Tensei 5 down for a bit because ultimately, so okay, this game's great, and I'm probably a little like I might even be like right at the half or like a little over the halfway. No, I'm over the halfway point for sure, actually, because I'm in the third kind of area. So I'm probably like maybe 2/3 through, and I'm a little burnt out because it's really good, but ultimately it really is the same thing again and again, and that same thing is really excellent. But I'm sort of feeling it's funny, actually. I'm feeling a little similar to how I felt playing Bloodborne, where I got to a certain point in it and I was like, oh, Jesus. Okay, I've gotten through so much of this, but I know that the next bit of this is just going to be, doing the mechanics over and over, and, they'll add interesting things to it. But I know it'll be a challenge. And so right now I'm a little burnt on the just like, because I guess to describe the loop of this, it's like it sounds like there might have been more of a story in 4. There's not really a story in this game. Like, there is, and it's interesting, but it's basically, restricted to like when you start an area, and then like you enter an area and it's like, now go explore it. You'll find a couple side quests here and there, but there's not really that many, honestly. And you'll explore this big area. You'll kind of like look around, go through things. You're going to fight monsters, and you're going to try to recruit them. You're going to do some fusions. You'll level up. You got to do some new fusions. Keep your, make sure you have a good stock of demons. You're going to go fight someone. That character is going to have, specific strengths and weaknesses. So you're going to have to formulate a team that's like good against that one. Repeat, right? And that's kind of like how it goes. And it's really good, like it's solid. And like that gameplay of the press turn system is awesome. But like I just got up against a boss right now who's just like, he's just kind of RNG in me a little bit. Yeah, like I just like I had such a team that's so perfect, and like all these stats things are going, and then I just got like unlucky at one point because like it wasn't even like it was like anyway. There's things that you could kind of tell when something's gonna happen, and I was like, really, like I think he got a hit on me that was like literally exactly my amount of health. None of my demons are dead. I had one demon who had taunt using and was like actively like buffed to like draw enemy attention. Didn't matter. He still just targeted my like main guy, and I was just fucked. And I'm like, I've got him down to pretty much no health left. And I'm like, what was I even? Okay. And then I just kind of was like, I'm done. Like, I know I'll be able to beat this, but I need a break. So like right now I'm like, I just want a break from it because it's getting it's getting repetitive right now. And so I've been like 28 hours or so in. Like I put a lot of time into this game, so I'm gonna beat it. But I just need to have like I think I need like 2 or 3 games in between it before I come back and like finish it off, because it's not one of those games that I'm worried about like not knowing what to do when I come back, because it's just not like that, right? Like the systems within it, I don't find are all that complicated once you've like played it for a while, and I don't really feel like it's a game that when you come back to, you're like, I don't remember how to do anything, because like it's just not how it's designed, right? Like it's like, no, this is a slower game that you're meant to kind of methodically look through, like spend some time with things. And yeah, I think it's just I was starting to get tired of I've spent a lot of time in Apotheosis, like looking at the World of Shadows or whatever, where I'm like fusing monsters. I'm just like, I can't look at lists anymore. I need to switch, you know? So anyway, that's why for me it's on retirement at the moment. But like I said, I am going to beat this game. I just need something in between it. It's one of those ones where I actually might recommend if people play this to like honestly do it in chunks, because it's super good, but the gameplay is what is first and foremost in this game, and it is what is highly, highly, highly pushed. And so it can get a little intense, right? Like because you're going through that loop over and over. I think it rewards breaks on it. So anyway, that's where I'm at. I got a good boss waiting for me. And you know what it's like sometimes, right? You face a boss and it fucks you up, and then you take a break for a while and you come back and it's like it's nothing or something, you know? I'm waiting for that to happen for me. Anyway, that's my retirement. What?
Hopefully you don't forget what demon lineup you had, or what was the function of each demon, because it had happened to me with Strange Journey Redux, which, by the way, I still haven't beaten and I really want to. But I forgot what was I doing with the story, and I'm like, I might need to restart this.
But see, that's what's nice about this in a weird way, because the story is so non-existent and they have giant waypoint markers showing you exactly where to go at all times. I'm like, I don't know what I could, and like also I saved it with my demon lineup, and like there's just so much information. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those games where like literally the menu has so much information that if you feel lost, you just literally need to open it up, spend like a minute reading things, and you're like, got it. I remember where I'm at, you know? So in that sense, it's great. But I know what you're saying. Like I did this with Tales of Vesperia once, where I stopped and then I went back and I was like, I have no idea where I'm supposed to go. And that's a big open world game where like there's lots of areas, and the quest system is a fucking piece of shit in that game. Like it doesn't tell you at all what you're supposed to do. But in this one, it's just like they don't have to tell you. They just said go to big orange mark, and you're like, okay. Like sometimes you don't even have a quest. There's just a big orange dot. You go to your quest list and you have nothing, and it's just like go to dot, and you're like, okay. And so I'm literally saved right in front of the next story beat. So I'm like, there's no way I can miss this.
Okay.
I foolproofed it, you know? That was my plan. Although Watch would come back here in 2 months and I'll be like, I'm lost. But we'll see.
Hey, at the very least, you can go back and listen to this episode and not be lost.
Exactly, right? That's the benefit of this. So anyway, that a soft retirement for Shin Megami Tensei 5. More like I'll be back. Why don't we move on then to what we're playing? So I don't know. Either you can take it over. I'm easy. Fight it out. Duke it out.
Allow me to take it over?
Yeah, Rick is still muted, so you can take it over, Paula.
I was literally offering Paula the slot, so
nice.
Beautiful. So I've been playing Dairoku Agents of Sakuratani, and mainly I've been ending hunting on this one because I want to have like the grand finale route like just at the very end. So right now I've finished all of Shiratsuki's endings. So I got like the full CG gallery for that one. And I also got like the common route ending, where you pretty much like, I don't know if I told you about, there was like this mini game where you have to press the buttons in the correct order and then you seal a demon or something like that. Or apprehend a demon. You don't seal them in this game. The thing is, that didn't happen in any, like that didn't come back in any of the routes of the characters. But it is, you pretty much have to like just do apprehensions to get like the common route ending. And I'm like, okay, there were plenty of times where you had to apprehend a demon, and a Yakashi on any of the character routes and it is on automatically. Why cannot at the very least have that mini game if it already exists? So I'm like, you already created this. Use it. Make use of it. I even forgot it existed until it happened again, and it was just for the common road ending. So yeah, that aside, that's pretty much all I've done on that game. So moving on to Lost Ark, I advanced a little bit like on the story, and there's this one character that is very powerful, and I'm like, hey, why isn't he the chosen one? Why is my character the chosen one if I can barely do any damage compared to this guy? So why? Still, the story is kind of like picking up, and I've heard from my boyfriend who already is like level 50 or so that the story really picks up later, and it gets really good. So I'm looking forward to that. After that, I've been playing Pokemon Shining Pearl, and finally, like just before the Elite Four, I've been hunting. I've been catching a lot of Pokemon because okay, my boyfriend wanted like a specific Pokemon that is only found in Pokemon Shining Pearl, which is the version of the game that I have. But I needed to unlock the national Pokédex to be able to access to capture that Pokemon. So I completed the national Pokédex. But the thing is that I already got the Pokemon. I gave it to my boyfriend. I'm waiting for my boyfriend because like we got a thing where my nephew wants us to go like all of us together to the Elite Four and try to beat the Elite Four together. So we're pretty much waiting on him to finish the game. And in the meantime, I just unlocked the National Pokédex, which means there's a lot more encounters in the Grand Underground, and I can find more items by excavating in the Grand Underground, which, by the way, I found a Helix fossil. Like, long live Lord Helix. If anyone gets that reference, I'm gonna be so happy. It's a Twitch Plays Pokemon reference. Never mind.
Sorry.
We don't know.
I'm not gonna explain it. I may put like a footnote on the description, hopefully. It was a good time. And Omanite and Omastar are awesome. They carried the darn party.
Oh wait, are you? Okay,
where was I?
I might know what you're talking about.
So yeah, I got the Helix fossil. So now I am fossil hunting, so I can get like all my exclusives and then exchange with my boyfriend with all his exclusives later. Yeah, I'm trapped in the Grand Underground until further notice. So I have my fun there. I've also been making some progress on Fire Emblem The Blazing Blade on the Game Boy Advance, and I'm currently on chapter, let me check my notes real quick, chapter 7 of the Link chapters. And I've heard there's like, I knew there were like also the Hector chapters, but it seems there's another set of chapters which I'm like, oh my god, so much game.
Yeah, there's a lot of game in this.
There's a lot of game in this. So I'm pretty happy with that. So because the chapters in general are like really, really short, so I was worried I would finish the game like in 17 hours or less. But yeah, it seems there's nothing to worry about there. I have Fire Emblem Blazing Blade for a while, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm trying to do like not necessarily like an Iron Man playthrough where if my unit dies, well, it dies, but too sad for me, but I don't get access to that unit again. But I'm just trying to play it like normally, the sense if like I'm in the end of the chapter and I lose a unit, I'm not gonna go back and do the entire chapter again unless like I had like bad rows or stuff like that. So I actually lost a unit. I had like very good growths on some of the level ups of that chapter. And at the last possible second, just as I was fighting the boss, everything was going smoothly until one of my units missed. And then I didn't have any way to finish the boss off, and I have a unit that was very good, but like with a sliver of health. So I sent my Pegasus Knight to rescue him. And my Pegasus Knight was supposed to survive the hit, but it was a critical hit.
Of course it was.
Of course it was.
Which
so it
Pegasus
was like,
Knight was it?
The first one you get, was it Florina?
Oh no! Okay, yeah.
At the very least, like story-wise, they don't really die. She just got her arm broken and now she can't fight. But Lynn is like, don't worry, I'm not gonna send you home like I probably should because you need to see a doctor. You can come with us. So Florina is still like in the party. I mean, not in the party proper, but like in the story. But like for all gameplay purposes, she's pretty much dead.
Yeah.
But it was still like sad. I probably I actually had like my head kind of how that happened, but I'm not gonna bore you with that. I already talked my boyfriend's ear off with my overall headcanon for this game.
Oh.
But yeah, I lost a unit. I was like, I'm not gonna reset this. I already got this far. I had good unit growth, which I'm probably not gonna have if I retry this. So it's like, okay, sorry, Florina, you're a dear, but sorry. So, well, at the very least, I still have the two cavaliers that you get at the start, and they are like pretty strong at this point of the game. So yeah, and the final game I started was Period Cube, Shackles of Amadeus. And
Wait, don't tell me. It's Notome.
yeah, it is.
Go on.
It was a weird name, right?
It could not be.
Okay, so as Rick already guessed, it is an Otome game. And this one is a very interesting one because, first of all, it has the same artist as the only other Otome that I know of this artist is Black Wolf Saga, and that one is like a dark fantasy Otome, but for some reason, the style of this artist fits perfectly both that setting and this setting. This setting is okay. Allow me to tell you like more or less the beginning of the story. That is like, okay, this character, which name I totally didn't forget because I'm bad at names, Kazuha. She is like a high school student, and she kind of lost contact with her brother, but she was like, okay, he probably is busy. But then this childhood friend of hers comes and says, "Hey, I can get a hold of your brother," which, by the way, they kind of like played an MMO together, and it has been like such amount of time. Have you heard anything from him? And then she starts getting worried, and instead of, I don't know, telling the parents and saying, "Hey, can we go visit brother?" No, she goes by herself with her childhood friend to visit her brother. And first of all, the guy got a message that says, "Don't get near World V," as in V, like in Vita. And then it's like, what does this mean? And they get into the apartment, and there's like a huge blue screen saying, "Entering World V." Oh my god, I wonder what this means. And they say it's like, hey, this is like the insignia of the MMO we were playing together. So maybe there's some clues in the memo, like because at that point they already went to the brothers' university or college. I don't remember which one. And talked with some fellow students, and they were like, "No, I don't know where he is." So it's like, okay, let's try to talk with his online friends. Maybe they know anything about him, or maybe they're still in contact with him. So they get into World B of this game after being told not to go near it, and now they are trapped because in this game their consciousness kind of got transferred to the game, and now they are like actual people inside this game, and they, in a sense, they got like spirited away, if you want to see it like that way. And now they have to clear this tower to get out of the game. And there's like these the jaws, like these gray areas in the game where if you touch it, well, you go bye-bye. And if you die inside the game, you die in real life, because Sword Art Online, Log Horizon, not enough anime has already done it. But okay. That being aside, like the overall setting of the game, even if I'm telling it like the abridged version, I'm making fun of it, it's the way they tell it is kind of interesting. And also the way they use the game mechanics, because there are times where you are like given options like, oh, run away from the enemy, attack, or play the harp, because the main character has a character in the game that is a minstrel, so she's a support character. And not only that, she's also somehow, like, her character got programmed to be like this I don't want to say item in the game, but they treat her like an item in the game as the almighty Amadeus, and there's the other part of the title. And supposedly, if they like go together into this tower with the main character and these two other swords that are like legendary items inside the game, where there's only one of them, then they can clear the arc or something like that. And the thing with this is the way they integrate the MMO elements of the game, even if you don't like play like an MMO and it's just a visual novel where you make decisions, is nice. And there's another thing that has been like topical on the Otome sphere in Twitter, is that we kind of miss when you when you make an option and it's not directly like it's not evident how it's going to affect the story. Because in this case, like in the first chapter, it's like, oh, you can either like confront this thing like head on, or you can play the harp to buff your opponent or debuff the enemy, or you can just run away. And depending on which route you go with, is pretty much like which first character you run into to get help. And that defines, for example, if you're going with the Angel Clan or the Demon Clan. Which, by the way, it's like the Alliance and the Horde on World of Warcraft. These two factions that fight each other. And given that the main character, for some reason, isn't like either of them, because, well, plot needs it, then she gets like she gets into either clan and either trains, or I don't remember how the story goes in the other clans, but at the very least with the Angel clans, she trains and learns the ins and outs of the game to pretty much survive, which is nice. And I'm gonna say it, like, before I actually played some MMOs RPGs, I didn't like, it's not that I didn't get all the references, but I didn't get like all the little like nudges or Easter eggs of this thing. And now I'm like, hey, I know that. I love it. So yeah, that's I already finished a route of this game, and there are, I think, 6 or 7. They're pretty short, but they are a lot. So I'm gonna probably be talking about this game like for the next couple of weeks if I don't bomb rush it or something like that.
For the next period of time.
For the next period of time. Thanks, Rick. And why don't you take it away?
Now it's my period to talk about my playing game. So, not a lot new for me. The Witcher is still there. I've still barely touched it, but that should be changing sooner rather than later. A fair bit of multiplayer this week. So, some more Nidhogg on Vita this time. That game's so good. I think what I've realized playing it more recently is how much I love that it makes you play your opponent more than the game. Because the inputs are so limited. You have a jump, you have an attack, you have your sort of 3 levels of stance, and you can obviously throw the sword and do like a jumping kick kind of thing. But so much of it is playing to what you think your opponent's going to do, rather than any real flourish with the movesets, because there really isn't one. It's a shame that they got Nidhogg 2 so wrong, because that first game was just pure distilled fun. And it's still the one I would recommend to people over the sequel, without a shadow of a doubt. We also went back and played some Mario Kart Wii, which, goddamn, that's a throwback. DS was always my Mario Kart, but Wii's a good time. Yeah, it's great. I don't know that there's anything that I can say about Mario Kart that hasn't already been said or thought. It's Mario Kart. It's the
good
one.
Shit.
Too right. So there's 2 games beyond those that I really want to actually talk about. The first is Aviary Attorney. I played through the first 2 cases of that, and I'm at the point where you get the proper meat of the story, really. I forgot how good the writing is in this game. It's so much fun. The sense of comedic timing, the way they characterize those little bird fellows, it's just wonderful. I think my current favorite is probably Kingfisher, the fishing bird who hates being called a fisherman. He's not just a fisherman just because he fishes, but he does fish, and he does have that fishing rod in court. But he's not. Don't do that to him. Don't be like that. It's such a great little game, and I can't wait to finish it and justify a spoiler cast on it, because I think there's lots to talk about there. The other one, and I touched briefly on this last week, is Astral Chain. I haven't played a lot more, but I have sorted out the control scheme. Not a massive fan of the fact that you have like 4 presets and that's it. I'm a massive fan that they let you make attack the Y button again, which is where my muscles think it should be. The game is a lot more enjoyable with it tweaked that way. Still early days. I don't think I'm going to be the kind of person who tries to 100% that game. But I am looking forward to getting my teeth into it and unlocking some more legatices and getting into the depths of that combat system. I have to say already, for a Switch game, it looks unbelievably good. I like the setting. I like the concept. Much more than I was last week. I'm excited to play more and see where it goes. So that's a big change, which I'm very pleased to be able to report back. But yeah, that's me in terms of what I'm playing at the moment.
Nice.
Alyx.
Yeah. So going from a Switch game that looks great to one that does not, I'm playing Pokemon Legends Arceus right now. Listen, here's the thing. This game, so far, I'm really enjoying it. Like it's kind of like, it feels quite inspired by Let's Go. Pikachu a lot, in the sense that, like, in that game, you would get multipliers for catching like Pokemon multiple times in a row, and like in this one, you have research tasks. So like, it's not just about catching one Pokemon. Like, you want to catch it a bunch, you want to battle a bunch, you have all these different things that you can do. And so in a lot of ways, I'm like, it really reminds me quite a bit of Pokemon Let's Go in some ways. Like, they're like taking all of these ideas they were flirting with in other games and putting them into one. But what I will truly say, and I know it's been memed about, And some people are like, maybe it's an exaggeration. This game looks like fucking ass. It is bad looking. Like, it is just bad looking. Like, even the ground looks bad. And, like, the draw distances are a nightmare. Like, shit just pops in and, like, even the fucking grass is just, like, so spread out. And, like, boop, 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 boop. Like, it's just...
It's no exaggeration to call it PS1-esque texture work.
Yeah, like Girlfriend Reviews had a great thing where they were like, "Welcome to Pokemon N64," like something like that. Like it's like genuinely like it looks a lot like that. Like character models look nice, you know, like they look great, and the Pokemon look great, right? It's just, and like it's very fun, and that's why I'm almost like a little more pissed off because I'm like, you fuckers, you can make a better game than this. Like, you know, you can make it look better than this. But anyway, here's the good news is that I think the core mechanics of this game are so much fun that if they can just spend a little more time polishing up some of their other aspects, this could make for a really wonderful series with like you in this type of kind of gameplay. I have a strong feeling because we're recording this in the day where they just announced their next mainline, which I was like, holy shit, okay, new mainline this year. Like, I knew they'd try to release something at the end of 2022, but like a new mainline, you're like, damn, that's a little fast. I'm going to be curious because I think if they don't incorporate the changes that they've made in Arceus into their main lines, I'm going to be curious to see how it's received because this really is like a breath of fresh air into this game and into this kind of styling. Like it just feels like Monster Hunter Pokemon in the best possible ways, right? Where like you're going out, you have like the central home base, you're doing this research, you're crafting things, you're making your team, but like also you get to choose when your Pokemon evolve. Like they don't just auto do it, you click in and you evolve them, and like there's so much more, you just have like so much more control and like choice in your Pokemon, and like you can actually like teaching them a move doesn't mean that it vanishes forever. Like you can actually like slot old moves back in and stuff. Like there's more move choice as well, which is like super fucking cool. I was like, oh, why was I ever allowed to do this? Like now I can actually like, if there's a move that I like but I'm like, I only got 4 slots, I'm like, oh okay, I can come back later and I can put that in if I want. I can adjust how that works. And yeah, it's fun running around too and finding them, like, you know, hiding around. I will say the Pokemon aren't very like, they don't have a lot of personality in the sense that like, and I didn't expect this, but like, you know, when you play something like Pokemon Snap, right? Like they're kind of doing their thing and they're in their areas. And this one, they do to a degree, right? Like some of them are more aggressive than others, you know, they're milling around in certain areas, but it's not like they're living in the environment really, right? Like it's not like you're going to see, I don't know, Starly like chilling up in a tree, you know, eating something or some shit. Like, no, they're going to be hopping around on the ground. Like that's how this kind of works. So that's maybe one critique I'd have of it at the moment. Also, its tutorial is just really long. I'm like, I get it, let me play. But I also understand it's fucking Pokemon. It's always like that, right? Where you're just like, no, I can figure this out, all right? Like, you don't have to show me everything. I can figure it out. But I've gotten through it now. It's probably a few hours. Sounds like it's actually similar to like, I heard Horizon Forbidden West apparently has like a 3-hour tutorial at this point, and like I think it's a little bit like that. Yeah, it's similar to that, but they do let you do things. And anyway, I really like it. I'm really like where they're going with this. I just, again, I don't want to let them off the hook for the graphical stuff, because I know sometimes they say like, oh, graphics don't matter. I'm like, no, that's always been bullshit. They do matter. They don't have to be perfect, but like the visual quality of a game obviously matters. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
you're gonna be stirring up the game for 10, 20, 30 hours. It better look good.
Plus, it tells you so much about what you're supposed to be doing, right? Like, I don't know. That argument's never held water for me. Like, graphics don't matter. God, give me a break. They don't have to be like perfect, but like if you talk about a game like Wind Waker and you tell me graphics don't matter in that game, baloney. That like makes the charm of it, right? Like it's just like such a huge facet of it.
Graphics don't always matter, but like a game like this, they absolutely do.
But also the choice matters, right? Like even if you're doing a super minimalist, that's still a choice on it, right? And so like you're still, I don't know. All I'm saying is like it does matter for me at least. And in one like this, especially where it's kind of this open world design where you're like going through to find Pokemon, and like if you look in the distance and you see if there's like a flying Pokemon or anything, they're like 2 frames per second like off in the distance, and you're just like, oh, that gross. Like, oh man. It just, I don't know. It makes me wonder how the fuck is the Switch going to keep going for another few years? Like, it's just starting to hit that limit, you know? Like, there's just a point where I'm like, this thing needs a little more power for like companies developing now, because I don't know. I feel like we're hitting that point, right? Where like the new consoles are like really gaining steam, and like in a year or two, they're going to be the standard, right? Like the shift's already happening, but like they will be the standard very soon. And I'm like, bro, I don't know if you fucking Pokemon company can barely make it work. I'm like, who else is going to make it work?
To be fair, the Pokemon Company, I don't want to talk bad about them, but they
Don't lie. Yes, you do.
Yes, you do.
Okay. Okay, they could be doing better in optimization and stuff like that, because
Yes.
the Switch can run Breath of the Wild, the Switch can run Shin
Exactly.
Megami Tensei 5, the Switch can run Astral Chain.
Yeah.
But I think
Why
this is
can't
the
they
point,
like
right?
do a better Pokemon?
This is the point. The Game Boy Advance can fucking run Tomb Raider. If any of you've seen that nutty homebrew project recently, it's a question of how much effort and optimization and like coding genius is involved to make it happen. Like, you don't see devs for PS5 and whatever the up to their Xboxes jumping through that kind of hoop to get a game to run and look gorgeous on that system. It's a requisite on Switch to get something even looking close to that good. I would, in fact, go one step further and say the point at which that hardware is just too far behind to make anything multi-plat make sense has already been and gone.
Oh, way gone. Yeah.
And it's just a question of how long Nintendo cling to a good thing before they make the next move. My gut says it's got to happen later this year, really. Because by then, the newer console's been out 2 years?
Yeah, because they came out last year, right? Wait, hold on. They came out in 2020, right?
Yeah.
Because I've had an Xbox now for a year.
The longer they wait, the dicier it is, in essence.
Yeah.
But it's on the horizon. It's going to be coming soon.
Yeah, better.
Mm-hmm.
It really fucking bad. It worries me with like all the chip shortages and stuff too. And like, I'm like, I wonder if they had more plans, and now they're just like, maybe we'll hold off. Anyway, whatever.
Well, that's the talk with the OLED being like the minimal jump that it is.
Yeah.
I think we touched on it ourselves when it just came out, whether in a different non-pandemic reality that system comes out looking very different to what we actually got.
Yeah. I do want.
I think they already said like there are gonna be less switches like jumping around like this year than last year.
Yes.
And well, one has to wonder if they're like trying like to go with, I don't know, another like set of chips or anything like that maybe they already like ordered like very, very far ahead of time.
Yeah.
To whatever company.
I don't know though, like Nintendo's seems like they're being more traditional these days, like with their new leadership. And anyway, whatever. This is all speculation, but like it's like almost one of the best selling consoles of all time now. Like,
it's outsold the Wii, which tells you everything you need to know.
I think it outsold the PS4 as well now.
Yeah, quite probably.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, yeah, I don't know. It's doing extremely, extremely well.
Yeah,
and it's creeping up there in terms of other games. Like when you look at it, yeah, it's like what, like 9.91 million or something. Yeah, my God, that's insane. Anyway, all this is to say, get your shit together, Pokemon Company. I love your games. I'll buy them all, but get your shit together. Anyway, what else am I playing? Well, I'm also playing. Oh yeah, I'm still playing Half-Life Alyx. Still fantastic. I think I joked about this last week, but like I finally like actually put my headset on appropriately, and like the game was suddenly crystal clear, and I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So adjust that headset. again, playing It Takes Two. We're in the snow place now, and oh god, so lovely. My partner loves playing this with me too. She's like, we play, though it's super fucking funny. So she God, she's not good at platforming. Not good at platforming at all. Like it's controlling that camera and the jumping. And I have to say, the like female character one seems to have to do a lot of platforming in the game. And maybe it's just because I'm getting to it so easily. Yeah. And it's so funny because she will make it, but she'll always at the last second fuck it up. So like she'll jump and then she'll hit the dash and she'll fall off the side. And I'm just laughing because I'm like, you managed to complete the complex platforming and always like jerk reaction at the very end. And she's frustrated. I'm just giggling because like for me, honestly, it's just fucking funny because I'm like waiting at like the next lever area. I'm like, no, you got it. You can do it. So she's getting better at that now though. She's learning that control of like, don't press the button after you land. Like just wait.
I mean, the other thing with that game is just like the amount of opportunities just to mess with your teammates. So like, there's a bit in an area later on from where you're going. If I tell you peeling back the leaves, Paula probably knows the bits. And like when you peel them back and when you release them, you can like kill your partner. And I had a lot of fun with that one. There's various platforms you have to manipulate at different times in the game where you can like,
I've killed her a few times.
Oh, yeah, me too, man. It's funny. It's
I've been further a few times with those.
The penalty is so minimal.
Exactly.
You feel like you can just fuck about with it. It's great.
Yeah, I did that with like there's the two walls that separate, and she was like jump, and I tried crunch. She's like no. I was like you were too slow, faster. It's just very fun. Like it's definitely a game that lets you just like fuck around and have fun.
Recall the nail, the
nail gun.
The nail gun is like never mind. You were just gonna jump into that nail. Never mind.
Yank.
Where you're at, Alyx, like there's a bit where you can pick snowballs up and you just get to run around with them. And what you can do is if you throw them at your partner when they're mid jump, you can just send them into the abyss.
That's amazing.
I did that.
Oh, I'm definitely doing that. Oh, she's gonna hate me. Yeah, but anyway, I gotta say, I love how inventive all the areas are. So I can't wait to talk about this in a spoiler cast because we're having a good time. We got this and Aviary Attorney. Those are two we gotta hit. I also I downloaded Picross Never Ends for me. So there's this game called Pixel Cross Adventure, and it's really clever. It's like you're actually like on like a little adventure, but it's like a top down game, and like you go through and like this lady has like gotten rid of all of these like items in the world and turned them into nonograms, and so you have to go and like solve the nonograms, the Picross puzzles, and then the items will reappear in the world, like in their actual pixel art, and it's really cool in that sense because like you actually finish something and voila, you've like repopulated the world. So I really like it. Like I'm actually like, oh, this is like a fun take on Picross. And what I will say is like, again, Jupiter is the only one who has a good UI system for their Picross puzzles. Every other one who has done it has never quite captured what they have. The feel is perfect. And what I find in this game, I don't really know why, but it feels like the puzzles are slower. Like I have to press more to like get it to like actually activate and work. And they don't have so many of these games. They never put in the like mark a space button, which is like not the X or not the actual dot, but like just putting like a mark on something to like remind you of like what's there, or like so when you're checking. And it drives me crazy when they don't do that. I'm like, put that in. That's just great. Anyway, small Picross things, but if you like Picross, like this is shit you'll probably want to look out for. I do recommend it though because I think it's a fun, novel take on it. And if you've like burned through so much Picross and you're just like, I want some more, this is a great thing. It's so good for watch. I did this while watching the Peacemaker show, which is very good. And also Cuphead has a show on Netflix now, and it's awesome. So
I watched the first episode. It's so wholesome. Like you can tell it's aimed at kids, but it is just good fun. It's
very old school fun. Like I'm just like it's a great like I'm like this is just excellent, man. Maybe I'll play the game at some point. So anyway, that was Pixel Cross Adventure. And lastly, I got a new phone because I was telling the others that like I just got a text from my carrier. I had it at Samsung A9, and they were like, hey, do you want the same phone plan that you have, like the same price except 7.5 times the data? And I was like, I guess I do want that. I'm like, Of course I want that. Oh, wow, that's a lot of data. And again, it was like exactly the same price. So I was like, oh shit, okay. And they're like, you just need to get a new phone. And the Samsung like S22 pluses or whatever just came out in Canada, like I guess the day before. I didn't even realize it was the day before. But like I went down to like, carrier, and like Samsung was like, yeah, we'll give you, and like it was like half off the phone. And then you put it on like this tab thing or whatever. So I was kind of like, what? Okay, nice. I think I just like lucked out at the right time, like was with them for long enough. But I thought like, I wonder what games look like on this, because god damn, it's beautiful. It's so big.
It's like a QHD screen. I think it's like 1440p.
Yeah. Well, hold on. The screen is absolutely unreal. It's AMOLED, I think.
It's definitely an AMOLED. Yeah.
Yeah. Hold on. Screen. Yeah. Let's get the specifications. Let's get real into this. We're gonna get real into this phone. I've just got all these nice new toys these days. Like
this week on the How Long to Beat Gaming podcast, phone specs.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, 6.6-inch flat FHD plus dynamic AMOLED 2x Infinity OLED display. Jesus.
Does it give you a pixel count?
It says 393 PPI, 230. No pixel count. 120 hertz refresh rate though, which is nice, and it's like a very like it.
That's the dynamic bit. It can roll all the way down to like I think it's either 1 or
40.
10.
I think. Yeah.
Save battery life, yeah.
It can go really low. Yeah. HDR 10 plus certified. A whole bunch of shit. Pixel count. Oh, I wonder. Let's find out.
Like how many by how many?
Right. It's 2030 40 by 1080.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's good shit, man. It's good shit. It can do it. It said it could do up to like, I don't know, it's like 4K 60 or something, or 8K something. I don't know. It could do a lot, and it's very pretty, and it looks very beautiful, and it's very smooth. And I'm like, and frankly, I don't give a shit. Cause like I just wanted a phone that's nice, and it was gonna last me for at least 3 to 5 years, hopefully, because fucking phones and their software shit. And like I just saw Samsung like promising 5 years at least of software stuff. So I'm like, okay, at least this hopefully isn't gonna die on me real fast.
I have to ask then. Yeah. Because I was convinced the smartwatch you were wearing was an Apple Watch. I thought you were an Apple guy. What watch is that you've got on?
Oh, it's just a Fitbit. Actually, it was just my dad. He gave me, because he got an Apple Watch. And so he just gave me his old Fitbit, because I was like, oh, okay, sure, why not? Yeah, so right. It's just a Fitbit Versa. I've got all this tech stuff, and I'm like, yay! No, I don't like Apple, man. I had it back in the day, but like the versatility of Android for me is just where it's at. I don't like being locked in.
Versatility.
There you go. Nice. Also, the camera is gorgeous. God damn it. Anyway, so all that to say is I got a new phone, so I decided, why don't I see what mobile games might look like on this? And I don't like mobile gaming, because I'm going to be with you. It's fucking cancer when you go onto the Google Play Store and you're just like, all these images there are like, spend your ultra rare platinum diamond coins here. And you're like, just fuck off. Get XP boosts for 3 times when you sign up today. And I'm like, I would rather shoot myself. But then I was looking.
Disgaea 1 PS2 port from 2002, $31.99.
Right? Yeah. Come play Final Fantasy VI, not the new Pixel remaster, but a phone one. It's gonna cost you $30. And you're like, I'm like, what? No, I don't want to do that. So I'm like, and it's touch controls. Yeehaw! So you're like, oh fuck. But I decided instead, I'm like, no, you know what? I saw The Room was on there. It was $1. So I was like, well, fuck. I mean, I thought about maybe I played a PC, but I was like $5-6 on the PC. And I was like, fuck that. $1 on the phone. Let's try it out. And it's awesome on the phone. It works great. In fact, some of the puzzles, I was like, they redid this for the phone, didn't they? Because there's no way this is how this works on the PC. Because there's like
all the way around. I think they redid it for the PC. I think these games were phone first.
They were phone first. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That would make sense, because there's like gyroscope stuff, and there's like multiple inputs at certain points where you have to like actually be pressing at the same time. And I was like, can't do that on the PC.
The port, not the other way around.
Good. Yeah. Maybe I will play the rest of them on the phone then, because it's really great on the phone, and like it looks gorgeous. And it honestly looks like, because I noticed that there was like an older version and a newer version or something, like when I went on Steam and it was saying the PC one, and I was looking at the PC version. I was like, hey, that's what the one on my phone looks like. So I'm like, okay, must be like the nice enhanced version. So anyway, it's great and really cheap on the phone. So I was like, fuck it, I'll do that. So I don't know if anyone knows of any good, like, mobile games that aren't, you know what I'm saying, that aren't mobile games. Let me know.
I'll throw it to you now, and I'll throw it to the audience at home. Rusty Lake series. They're like escape room games. They're really, really good.
Oh, good. Okay, that sounds great. That seems to be like just a really like winning combo on phones, like the kind of escape room stuff. It just seems to, I don't know, it seems to fit really nicely.
Yeah.
You said Rusty Lake?
Yes.
Rusty
Yeah.
Lake.
There's the Cube Escape ones, which are all like the free ones, and then there's a few Rusty Lake ones, but it's all the same universe, and it's like a big overarching mad story, but the puzzles all sort of work and are fun independent of said story.
There are so many Cube Escape games. Okay.
Yeah, but each one's like 10 minutes long. Like they're real bite sized. The Rusty Lake stuff's a bit longer.
Cool. All right, I'm so down. Thank you for mentioning those. All right, anyway.
You're welcome.
That's the shit that I'm playing. And actually, two things that I want to foreshadow real quick. I got like a nice little connector for like my GameCube controllers for my PC. So I don't know, Neryl, I think it is. He made like a HD texture pack for Majora's Mask.
I'm aware of Daryl, yes.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be setting that up because he has an awesome video even showing how to set Dolphin up properly too. So I'm just gonna be setting that up, and I think I'm gonna finally play through Majora's Mask. And the thing is, I don't want to play it on the Switch online because I hate that service. I don't really want to play it on the 3DS because I know there are issues with the 3DS one. And I tried it on the 3DS and I wasn't a big fan of that one. Foreshadowing for what we're about to talk about. So I think I'm going to do it on PC because I've got this beautiful new screen. And like, I want to take advantage of it. I'm going to play with a guide because I always bug out of Majora's Mask. And I think I just need something to guide me along a bit. And I'm going to jump into Cyberpunk again because it's finally, Cyberpunk 2077 has finally been released. So I guess
properly released.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago on the Series X. At least I'd actually would say it has genuinely just been released because it did not have an upgraded patch. So the game just came out a few weeks ago, and I'm excited to play it because it looks wonderful. So with all that being said, why don't we? I think that's a nice transition. Actually, talking about Majora's Mask. Why don't we jump into our topic, which is the 3DS, a console that I weirdly enough like. I love this thing, but also it's a bit of an ugly duckling in some ways.
Hey, don't talk bad about the 3DS.
I mean, it got me back into Nintendo, like honestly, because I was out for a long time. Because once the Wii was gone, it's I was PS4, and then that was that, and like we fucking buying the Wii U, so I was like, all right, well I'm not gonna buy that. But then the 3DS was around, and I was like, oh, there's Smash Brothers on the 3DS. Well, which yeah.
I was gonna say the 3DS and the Wii U, as much as I love the 3DS, they were both systems with solutions in search of problems. Probably more so the Wii U because that input method and that dual screen thing with a handheld screen and a big screen. On paper was cool, but like over the course of that thing's life, no one really found a great reason for it to exist or a thing that it did any better. Maybe Zombie U kind of, but like that's the only one that springs to mind. 3DS, like that 3D definitely made certain things better.
Yes.
But it didn't click for a lot of people. I mean, I leave it on for almost everything, but I recognize that I'm an outlier based on the amount of people you hear talking about how the 3D on it was trash and how well the 2DS version sold and all that kind of thing. Well, it also had the misfortune of falling right at the end of that sort of mainstream 3D craze. Yeah. Even though it was something that Nintendo had been toying with forever and ever and ever, it felt like it just dropped a smidge too late.
And it was around kind of like a moral panic time where people were like, oh my God, 3D is going to ruin your children's eyeballs, right? So
and around a business panic time where everyone was like, well, smartphones are the future, yo.
Yeah, so they're like, why would you play games mobile game? Like, why would you play on an actual like console instead of just playing in mobile games? And then you're like, because buttons will always be better. But
and then it didn't help that at release it had fucking Ridge Racer, Rayman 2 again, and Pilot Wings, which was like a half-hour game that also sort of released on Wii a year and a bit ago as part of Wii Sports Resort.
And I think what's interesting is the 3DS to me, is potentially a vision of what's about to happen with Nintendo, where like it releases and everyone's like, well, why should I get that? I got my DS. And you're like, and then ultimately it's like, well, what games do you have on this? And then they don't want to develop solely necessarily for that, so they start to do that, but then they don't have any like real good shit for it yet, and so people aren't jumping over to it, and it's a whole freaking rigmarole. And I'm just like, I'll be curious to see what ends up happening with the Switch, but that's for future thoughts. What I will say with the 3DS that I did like the kind of form factor of the thing. Like it's just such a solid beefy boy in all the best ways. And like, because I don't know, as much as I loved my DS Lite, that thing fucking cut my palms, you know. It was so sharp. It was just like it just like it would like get into my hands, like that little, like, you know how it had that edge to it. It was like the sharp edge on it that I just found, like, because did you have a DSi or did you have like the DS Lite, like the small one?
I had all three. I had a DS Fat, which was probably my favorite.
I had the Fat too. I love that boy.
I side story. I have like a case coming in like on a slow boat from China. I'm gonna like fix my old broken DS Fat. I'm gonna do a case mod on it. So exciting news for that. But I had a DS Fat, which was the love of my life. I had a DS Lite, which I really, really liked. I had a DSi, which was fine, but those extra features were just bloody pointless. I had all three, and then I skipped the regular 3DS.
Yeah,
because as much as I visually liked that tritone design, that was an uncomfortable damn console. My brother had like the limited edition Hyrule one they did for Ocarina of Time. Was not a fan. Ditto like the 3DS XL at the time. Just it wasn't quite right. I really loved the new 3DS that they did with the changeable faceplates. I have two. One that's hacked and it's got like a wooden style sort of Mario Power Flower thing going on, and a clean one that's got like Kirby faceplates that are just beautiful. I didn't like the regular 3DS design from a comfort perspective, is what I'm trying to say.
Maybe that's the one I'm actually thinking of, not as much the DS Lite. I just know there was one of them because I was looking at the DS Lite. I was like, no, that's not the one.
It's got to be the regular 3DS that cut you.
Yeah,
it just hurt my hands. Yeah.
The consensus with the DS Lite is that was a comfy ass console, and I still play mine, so
I've got one in my closet. Yeah, that's good. I know. I actually regret not getting the new DS 3DS. Like, I kind of wish I hadn't, but like got the 3DS XL, but I didn't know it was coming because like that thing was nice. I do think they butchered things by trying to make exclusives for that one because that was like bound to fail. Or just like.
But I get it though, because Xenoblade, you can tell, needed that power.
Oh yeah.
But then what were the exclusives? It was that and Fire Emblem Warriors.
Earthbound. Like, remember there were SNES games.
The SNES
the SNES games.
I mean, that was a business move. There was no way that was a power requirement.
God no. If it is, then the 3DS had bigger problems on its hands. Yeah, because I mean, when you think about, hold on. The 3DS's launch date, because wasn't it in like 2011, right? 2011.
Yeah, that and Vita were like 2011, 2012.
I just looked up. I was like, 3DS launch date. One of the first things, you know how the people also ask thing? The first one was the 3DS a failure? I'm just like, oof. And like,
but I mean, History Lesson initially, goddamn, yes, it was.
Yes.
They had to drop the price and release a load of first party games and ride a wave before it like turned things around.
Well, remember that nightmare of where they had like the early adopters came on and then they like immediately had this like change around, and so they had to because they dropped the price, and so then they gave them all a bunch of Game Boy Advance games, right? Because it was like
never got released anywhere else. That's about as well as they could have handled it. In fairness, it's like, absolutely. Yeah, we're sorry, we kind of shafted you on price. Here's a makeup sort of thing. So.
Did you want to add something there? Yeah, I know. Sorry, I thought Paula had something.
Yeah,
but
yeah. I'm trying to like I'm trying to see like where to start like adding the stuff I was about to say, because like for me the 3DS, the 3DS XL was my return to gaming after I don't know how many years. So for me, this and later on my new 3DS XL were like the what opened the door to gaming for me, and where I start trying I started trying like all kinds of different games, and where I discovered series like Fire Emblem or Shin Megami Tensei.
Yeah, this is my Fire Emblem discovery machine too.
Yeah,
Yours and everyone else's, I think. It's mad to think that Awakening was like the make or break game for that series, and goddamn was it a make.
Yes.
yeah.
Maybe that's
Like, you know,
oh, sorry, go on.
oh, you know what's funny about that? I was on the United States like around the time Fire Emblem dropped. And the last day before my cousin dropped me by the airport was like on the release week of Fire Emblem, and we went to a game store that day, and I was like, "Hey, what is this? This looks interesting. There's stores. It's kind of like a fantasy setting. I want to try this out." And literally, like just that impulse purchase, pretty much like kick off my love for Fire Emblem.
The rest, as they say, is history.
The rest is history.
Well, it's kind of a point you have there too. That like, I feel like the 3DS, honestly, it's the JRPG / strategy RPG beast, right? And like,
Yeah.
I think a large part of that is likely due to the fact that, let's be honest here, this was primarily successful in Japan, right? Like, yes, it was a success in other areas, but I think where like when we look at something like the Switch, where this has just this like worldwide broad appeal, it does seem to me a little more that there was just like maybe more of a guarantee that if you put a game out, it's going to succeed, at least in Japan. Like, I'm, like think about all the RPGs that are on there that are so like Japan focused, and I don't know. It just seems to me like when I play it, I'm like, this is one that didn't break into the West as much, and particularly on the developer side. Like when you think about the best games on the 3DS, that list is like basically entirely from Japan, right?
Mostly, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Like I think of even like I think I have right now like Games Radar has like one open right now, and there's like Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight, Steam World, and then all the other Metroid, because Metroid was made by a European team, so we got that.
Mercury Steam, yeah,
and that's it. Like all the other games are Japanese developed games, and so you're like, although wait, was Luigi's Mansion isn't, because Luigi's Mansion was developed in Canada, wasn't it?
You tell me, Mega.
I think it was.
I don't know.
That's a little known fact because they were like another like company. Anyway, like of like 25 games they've listed, basically 4 were developed outside, but are like Nintendo owned properties, right? So you're like, it's like one of those things where you're just like, okay, that's the focus. Whereas when you look at the Switch, I mean, look at all the different support that thing's been getting, right? Like it's just all over the place. Though it does seem to be slowing down a little bit in terms of the external support.
Just a little bit.
It's a wee bit.
Oh, how dare you!
He still got it.
But I have to say, oddly enough, the 3DS kind of got me into indie gaming. Because I remember Humble Bundle would actually did a few like 3DS bundles. Well, they did 3DS and Wii U. I mean, those Wii U codes have gone unclaimed. So if anyone's looking for some some indie Wii U titles, Paula, you want them? Sure, I'll send you some codes.
I got a Wii U. I'm one of like the 5 people that have a Wii U.
Sure, Paula, I'm gonna send you some codes. Okay, actually, I don't know if you'll be able to redeem them. Maybe you can. I don't know. It depends.
Maybe
they might not let you in your eShop, but we'll find out. If someone's in Canada and wants them,
specific with those codes, because I couldn't even sign up for that thing. But
right.
Well, maybe if you're in Canada and you want one, let me know. T-Mac, do you have a Wii U? I don't think so, but anyway, but
that's probably our cue to maybe start talking about games, right?
Yeah, well, I thought let's get on the games, because I was saying Steam World. That was my big ones. Like I played Steam World Dig on there, Steam World Dig 2, and I think I played Heist on there as well. Like Steam World, and Shovel Knight. Like those like 2D games, like I was all over that shit. Like it was so much fun.
Which is interesting because they were all on Vita, and although I suppose you jumped off of the Vita bandwagon by that point, those games are always more comfortable to me on Vita, which is always an interesting one. So I think I ended up playing Dig on Vita, and I have played a couple of 2D games on the 3DS, and where the D-pad's positioned it is a little bit of an awkward hold, whereas on Vita it's just way more comfortable. Trying to think in terms of platformers I did play. Obviously, the Box Boy series. You guys have heard me talk more than enough about those. They are wonderful games. Go and play those. They're really, really cheap.
Yeah, the D-pad
Speaking
does
of-
make your finger feel a little shitty.
Speaking of awkward
because
controls,
I
Icarus
played.
Uprising. Oh, sorry, go on. We'll come back to that.
Oh,
Sorry, go on, Paula.
because I played Shovel Knight on the 3DS
I will be as well.
until
That's why I own it.
something
Yeah.
happened and I didn't go back to it because fuck that. But yeah, the Box Boy games. And sorry, at the time I didn't play like many platformers, so I can't really speak for the D-pad on the 3DS. Oh, I did try out the Mega Man collection. Don't play it on the 3DS. Go
Yeah, I
play
heard
it
it's a
somewhere
pretty bad
else with
port,
an
yeah.
actual like more comfortable setup for those platformers.
Especially
And
those ones.
Yeah, especially those ones.
And speaking of awkward controls, or what some people thought were awkward controls, Kid Icarus Uprising. God, that was divisive. But amazing game. That
Amazing
needs a Switch
game.
port.
It's
I
the
loved it on
fans, isn't
3DS.
it?
I mean, if you came from DS first-person shooters, you already had that like touchscreen aiming,
Right.
left hand moving and shooting. You already had that down pat, and that was definitely where I felt. And that game was so good. It's a shame because I remember it was a conversation point at the time. It's a shame that they couldn't quite get it set up for circle pad support. So it had it so that you could use the circle pad to make your right hand movement and shooting. And I remember Sakurai coming out at the time and saying, we barely had time to get that implemented, let alone trying to make it dual stick aiming. But I mean, the core game is so good. I think there'd be very little to criticize if it had dual stick. I loved it for what it was, and if you needed it, the stand it came with like made it just fine as well.
Yeah, the stand was a savior, and it still is.
Yeah, but I think we're sort of in agreement that action games were not this console's strong suit. It really was all about the RPGs, and that probably is where I want to pull Shin Megami Tensei back into the mix.
Yes.
Because it had a really strong showing on 3DS. I think there were 6 SMT titles total.
It's a lot.
Let me see.
And-
Is Shin Megami Tensei 4, Apocalypse, Devil Summoner, Devil Survivor 1, Devil Survivor 2, and
Devil
Strange Journey.
Summoner.
Yeah,
I mean,
Devil
Soul
Summoner.
Hackers.
Soul Hackers, yeah.
That is it. Devil Summoner. Soul Anyway, yeah.
It's
so, yeah,
Devil Summoner
total.
Soul Hackers. That's the full name of the game.
God, I forget what it's called. And that's an interesting one because if you want to play the sequel, which is coming not too far into the future, your only way to officially play that game in English, the original, is 3DS. And as archaic as it is, it still holds up. But more importantly, and it's an interesting bit of coincidence, I suppose, in that SMT5 was my reason to get onto the Switch side of things. SMT4 was absolutely my reason to get a 3DS. When that dropped, it was like, right, I need to sort this out now. And boy, did it not disappoint. That's one of the best games going, without a shadow of a doubt. And it's exclusive to the Switch, and it's exclusive digitally to the Switch in the West as well. So with that store going, that's when you need to get on now or never, really. Oh no, in America, I think you got physical.
We did get it physical.
Let me correct myself. Yeah.
I think it was only I don't know if, and I don't think Apocalypse got a physical though. Maybe
it definitely did. I mean, we got a physical of Apocalypse. There's no way we got a physical in America didn't. Yeah,
I guess I just never saw it.
I own all the physicals that exist for 3DS SMT, and unfortunately, 4 is the only one that does not.
Okay. Yeah, man.
If we continue on the
no, go to town.
Go ahead. If we continue like on the Atlus bandwagon, we can name also Persona Q and Persona Q2.
Of course.
A spin-off for the Persona series, which was not available on the 3DS, but anyway. and those take more like the dungeon crawling of the Etrian Odyssey series and the first person like Megami Tensei games. The characterization is nothing to write home about. Like, they simplified the characters to a couple of traits, but the overall story I find, at the very least, on the first Persona Q games, I haven't played the second one, was very enjoyable. The way it's pretty much fan service. If you like Persona 3, 4, and 5, go to town. I really recommend those games. And as I already named it, Etrian Odyssey. Like, there are many Etrian Odyssey games on the 3DS, and you can actually play them all because it's a series that started in the DS. I would recommend the 7 Seas, especially for 3, though. You cannot get 3 without selling your kidney.
But then also 3 supposedly is horrifically poorly balanced. So the fun
maybe
thing
you're
with the
not
3DS is you
much.
have like remakes of 1 and 2. You have 4 and 5, which are both native 3DS titles. You have Nexus, which was like the big hurrah send off. And if you count them, you have Persona Q1 and 2. So you have like 7 really, really excellent dungeon crawlers there.
Just
All
an
with a very
absurd
specific.
amount, but yeah.
Yeah.
I've only played 4, but I own them all, and I'll be 40 by the time I finish them.
Damn
But
right.
that's the thing. It's a niche within a niche, but the console had such a depth to its library, if not a breadth. And I think that's the interesting thing, where if you fit into its sort of
Niche.
what it was, if you fit into its niche. I was trying to not use the word niche again, but I don't think I can avoid it. You were truly well served.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
sorry.
Go on, sorry.
I was gonna say I'd agree
No,
with
go
you
ahead.
too, because like I found that it is such a like I can honestly recommend this console just by like asking you like, do you like turn-based RPGs? And if you're like, no, I hate them, I'll be like, move on. You know, like it's like just get a Switch, right? Because like ultimately there are so many good games on this. Or it's like, do you no longer have your DS, but you have a lot of DS games? You should get the 3DS, right? Like it's just one of those things. Although now they're gonna be so expensive, I would actually say like jump fast if you don't have them. But like like when I think about the games that I played on this was the Zelda machine for me as well. And I don't know how many goddamn times I need to try Ocarina of Time before I realize I don't like this game. But like,
Yeah, I'm there with you, man.
But it's so many times, and it's so funny because the only other time I played Majora's Mask, I actually did like it. I just stopped playing, I think, because I think I got stuck, and that's why I'm like, oh, if I do this with a guide, it'll be fine. But Ocarina of Time, doesn't matter how many times I tried, I'm like, I don't like this. I don't like this at all.
It's a game where you had to be there. You really had to be there.
Yeah, I beat it with a friend when I was very young. We beat it together, and that was super fun. But I can barely remember that. I do remember the light arrows and Ganon at the end, but that's all I can remember, you know. But yeah, that was like one of the flagship titles for this machine, right? Like those 2 games, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, like they were, even though they, again, like I sort of mentioned before, apparently they did kind of bungle
with Majora's Mask specifically, and Neril, who you obviously mentioned, probably one of the big proponents online of, they did not do a good job of this remaster.
Mainly what happened.
Ruined. Go on, sorry.
The main things that changed with Majora's Mask, they were like quality of life improvements that, in my opinion, outweighed like anything else they may have butchered a little bit. But in the sense of, you can like advance time by the hour, and that is a godsend. I don't have to wait for how many minutes and then like get distracted and have to like rewind time because I missed my appointment. But and there's also the fact that you can actually save and not suspend your game in the old statues, and that for me already made the game like way more playable, and I greatly enjoy my time with that. The thing that they didn't do well, the 2 things that they didn't do well, is that some of the bosses now have like this giant eye that is like,
they all have giant eyes, yeah.
Which wasn't in the original, I think. Yeah. And the other thing was the swimming mechanic of the Sora Link mask, which you can no longer like swim indefinitely without spending magic.
Which
But at that
balks
point
it,
of the game, I just drank a tattoo from money and had unlimited magic anyway, so I didn't feel that being like a hindrance to the game.
Cool, so
But yeah, so
Yeah. The thing is, though,
And-
like, oh, sorry, yeah.
I was going to say this is all without talking about the original Zelda games for the platform, Triforce Adventure, which meh, but A Link Between Worlds, depending on who you ask, is like one of the best Zeldas going.
yeah. Like go ahead, try that one. It is amazing. Triforce Heroes, it is fun if you have 2 other people to play with, which at the time I didn't have 2 other people to play it with, so I pretty much played the entire game with the dummies. Though if you have the other 2 people to play it, prepare for chaos. It is a lot of fun.
Alex, you were going to say?
Oh no, sorry. I was just saying, like, with the 3DS, like, yeah, they definitely fixed a few things. With I was just still not thinking Majora's Mask, but like the reality too is that it's just you can get a lot of those fixed just on PC if you want to just like, and that is more difficult, obviously. So like if you're looking for just the easy way of doing it, yeah, like pop on to the 3DS. But there are just like, it's like you said, they fixed a lot, but then they really just fucked some other things up. But what I've heard is there is actually a patch, like a mod that someone did for the 3DS version that fixes all the bullshit that happened in it and would make it, like, I would imagine, basically the definitive way of playing it. Yeah. Yeah, Neryl just like a month or two ago made a video about, like he releases texture packs and stuff. So, and he's doing them for the 3DS as well. And so I think with that mod, that'll take a while, but he's going to release an HD texture pack for that one as well. So, anyway, all that to say, the 3DS one was good, but like a little bit of a disappointment following the Ocarina of Time version, which was so excellent, right? And like really, really, really good. But not quite as much. And also this thing, it's funny to think, like, this is the one that got me into Animal Crossing, like New Leaf. I was like, I played the shit out of that. I don't give a shit about the new one, but I played the shit out of New Leaf.
I think most people are like that, though. You have one Animal Crossing that you get mad invested into, and then you're just like, right, I've had my fill for my lifetime now. Like Wild World was that for me on the DS. I have no interest in future ones. But there was a good 3-month period where like that was my gaming.
Yeah.
In its entirety.
In my case, I got into New Leaf, but I couldn't play it for an extended period of time because I got bored, because I wanted like to customize everything like outside and I couldn't. So of course when New Horizons came out, I was like, oh, this is exactly what I wanted. Goodbye, like 3-4 months of my life on that.
Yeah.
I think sorry, yeah. We're just jumping on each other. But I also was thinking of Virtue's Last Reward. I love that one too in this thing. Like there's just some good ones here. But like when I think about my experience with the 3DS, it's basically Ace Attorney, Fire Emblem, Pokemon, Legend of Zelda. That was my 3DS experience, right? Like I'm like, and then all the games that came out for those, I just like played the shit out of them. And then anything else was just kind of periphery, right? Like those indie games and whatnot. But like it was a really strong showing for those series. Like I know, I guess nowadays Pokemon X is like a little maligned or whatever, but that game I fucking loved it. It got me into Pokemon again, and got me playing Pokemon Sun. But yeah, I don't know, and like it has a soft spot in my heart just for the fact that like it is what has made me obsessed with Fire Emblem.
Right. In my case, it is also Pokemon, Zelda, Shin Tensei, Fire Emblem, the Layton series, Ace Attorney. Oh my god, Ace Attorney. And which one haven't I named? Well, I'm pretty much like every single series that I'm into right now is because of the 3DS.
Yes. I mean, this interestingly kind of speaks to the depth that we said the console didn't have, because like SMT is the only one of those that I've really touched on yet. Like, there's been some bigger games, there's been some bigger franchises, but there's also loads of random stuff on the 3DS if you're willing to dig a little bit. So like, the two things I want to shout are one, like all the 3D classic stuff, whether it's like the Nintendo stuff, your Excite Bike and your Kid Icarus, where they've done some real work updating those games.
Yes.
Whether it's the Sega stuff that M2 did, like your Space Harriers and your Sonics and your Altered Beasts and your Twin Bees. There's various other sort of like odds and ends and one-offs that people have sort of put those efforts into. Just a really interesting reason and opportunity to revisit classic games with a fresh perspective, literally and metaphorically. But also like random experimental indie stuff. So like Guildo 1 and Guildo 2 is something that I think we've brought up a couple of times. Crimson Shroud that I played is one of those games. You have Liberation Maiden, which is Suda 51. Weapon Shop de Masse, Attack of the Friday Monsters, which is just a beautiful, wholesome little sort of slice of life game. Starship Damri. Oh, there's two others that I'm forgetting. Aeroporter and I think it was like Bug Tanks or whatever it was. But like cool little experimental things like with big names and relatively big level 5 budget. But then like you have the Gunvolt franchise, you have Pocket Jockey, which was Game Freak making like a horse racing solitaire game that shouldn't work but bloody well does. Hana Samurai, like a 3D almost Punch-Out-esque sword fighting game. Just so many little offshoots and experiments, which in a sense were the breeding ground for what Switch is trying to do at the moment in spite of its terrible storefront discoverability.
Yeah, which I wouldn't say the 3DS's storefront's any better, but yeah.
Only by virtue of having less on there, but it is marginally better.
And you can set your games, like you can save your games in different folders, which makes everything so much fucking easier to do.
Yeah, they could do it on the 3DS, they couldn't do it on the Switch.
The actual home screen to 3DS is much better. But I have to say, Nintendo, in terms of when it comes to their shop designs, have been something for a long time. I guess they've just released a web page.
Shop designs.
Yeah, you know, when I think about it too, though, it's like you're saying, like there's lots of these like kind of hidden gem sort of things, and like, funny enough, like when I think of the 3DS, it feels more traditional than the DS did, right? Where like the DS to me felt quite innovative, and like it felt more experimental in some ways, and the 3DS felt like it had a lot more kind of, I don't know, like I say traditional, but you know, like almost like trying to hit like console-esque games, right? Like when thinking of Monster Hunters and Ocarina of Time, obviously, right? Like N64 games coming onto here, and like using less of that touch screen, but like still having both your screens. It's just like when I think of the best games on here, they don't require that touch screen implementation necessarily. The Link Between Worlds is so good, but even that one, far less use of the touchscreen, right? Like it's significantly more just like button controls. Fire Emblem, you don't need to use that touchscreen really at all. You know, again, Shovel Knight, no, that's not being used. Even Ace Attorney, which like, yeah, okay, you're popping it, but like, you know, it's not, you know what I mean? Like,
is maybe the exception that proves it, where you have all that map drawing still.
Yeah. On the other hand, for the DS, you had like just going as far as Zelda, you have Phantom Hourglass, the Spirit Tracks, and most of the controls were touchscreen based. And then you have the podcast favorite. Oh my god, I'm failing on this. I'm so fucking sorry, Rick. Don't fucking hate me. Ghost Trick. The podcast where like the best way to play it is with the touchscreen, in my opinion, or the game that I'm playing right now, that is Time Hollow, where you have to use the touchscreen, or Pokemon Ranger. Making circles with the touchscreen was like the name of the game right there.
But I think that's the thing. After like 7 years of the DS, like all of those ideas had sort of been exhausted to a greater or lesser degree. And that was always the difficulty for the 3DS. It was like, how do you follow up from the DS? And to a lesser extent, it's the same problem with the Wii and the Wii U. Like, you have two enormous successes. What do you do next without completely ripping up the playbook? And I think the 3DS succeeded far more than the Wii U did in that it was able to in that it was able to support regular gameplay without encumbering you with its gimmick, in the sense that you could always just turn the 3D off.
Yeah. And also, I think it benefits from the fact that the Vita was having a harder time at this point, right? Like, I think because when did the Vita launch again? 2012. Oh yeah, it comes out in 2012, so it came right before the PS Vita, right? And so I feel like that was like a real like linchpin for it. And also, though, I will say I do think
They
the
use
Vita
regular
coming out,
SD and micro SD cards.
yeah, I know
Yeah.
exactly, right? Regular micro SD, and then but that competition I think was ultimately a good thing for the 3DS. They had to kind of push itself more. Nintendo couldn't really rest on its laurels with it. Like, they were like having to kind of push harder with it.
Yeah, they couldn't have like two failures in their hands, like the Wii U and the 3DS. So one of them they had to jump ship from the Wii U pretty much and like put all the efforts on the 3DS.
And I think something that could be fun right now if we want to try. I was thinking I want to rank our like personal favorite in terms of the handhelds, excluding the Switch, because the Switch is its own hybrid bastardization. And like, I don't mind going first because I've been thinking about like, where would I place the 3DS for myself personally, and like, I think probably no surprise for me in terms of like what my favorite handheld is. Like, I think, and actually I found this really tough. Like, I was torn between the DS and the Game Boy Advance because I absolutely love both. I know you probably think Game Boy Color. I love the Game Boy Color, don't get me wrong, but not my number one. But like, I feel like I would probably put, I think my heart says the DS first, because like, honestly, it was just so much awesome shit. And then I would go like Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, 3DS, Game Boy. And that's only because of how strong those other ones are. But like, I don't know. What do you guys think? What are your personals?
Vita, DS, PSP.
Okay. I was thinking
3DS,
just Nintendo
Game Boy
handhelds,
Advance,
but that's fine.
Game Boy. In which case,
If it's only
forget those.
Nintendo
DS,
handhelds.
3DS, GBA, Game Boy, no question.
Okay.
Well, I didn't live like I didn't have that time with only the DS, so everything is a match for me. So for me, it would be like 3DS and Game Boy.
Game Boy, like Game Boy Advance. Game Boy Advance, yeah. You haven't as much. I've gone through all of them, so yeah. Sorry, pal. I thought I cut you off.
Here's
there.
the real question. Here's the real question. Where are we putting the Virtual Boy in that lineup?
The Virtual what lineup?
It's under the ground. It's buried deep. I know. It'd be interesting to throw the Vita in there. I don't know where I'd put that. But yeah, anyway.
Right to the top. No, that's a silly question. Alex. Don't ask silly questions.
But the one thing I will say is like I think all of Nintendo's handhelds, it's one of the things, like, don't sleep on them, like, if you've never experienced them, I so recommend going back to them, because each one, like, the fact that the 3DS for me is low on my list, the reality is that I love all of these so much. So it's like, and they're all such different experiences, particularly after the Game Boy Advance. But anyway, let's wrap it up there for now, I think, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you agree? Do you disagree?
Yeah,
Did we miss anything? How would you rank all the handhelds? Tell us all of that below the like button, just underneath this.
Yeah. There you go. Well, now it's time for How Long to Beat the Game. We kind of swapped editing duties, so I'm just going to pull it up this time because...
Thank you, because I was not prepared for this.
No problem.
Prepared for this, but in particular today, I wasn't prepared for this.
So, what we've got is what? Let's do this one. Whatever. Mobius Empire Rising. I have no idea what this is.
What?
And it's spelled like...
How do you spell it?
Yeah, so it's not spelled like Mobius strip. It's spelled like Mo, the name Mo. So MOEBIUS and then Empire Rising. I think this is an old game, I'm going to assume.
Let's have a look.
Oh, you can get it on Steam.
What? It's not? Okay.
Wikipedia says 2014.
And it looks like... Okay, anyway, sorry. Yikes. Okay.
Mobius Empire Rising received mixed reviews from critics. It received an average score of 60 and a weighted score of 54 out of 100 on Metacritic.
Ooh. Yeah.
It looks like it might have been
Yikes.
crowdfunded.
Oh, is it? Okay. It's by Gabriel
Yeah.
Knight, actually. Isn't that
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, hold on. Let me see here. I just saw the name there. From Master Storyteller. Oh, Jane Jensen. That's it. The person, the lady who created Gabriel Knight, which is like a big. It's a thing. It's a big thing. Hold on. Yeah, she's a game designer who I think made some pretty popular adventure games. And the Gabriel Knight is like a series of adventure games that I believe was quite popular in the 90s. It's like Sierra Online. Anyway, here you go. There's a little fun stuff for you. So this must have been a pretty anticipated game.
I mean, I'm sure the storytelling's good, but the art is not.
I know
The art's in this weird sort of mid-budget, like how much effort did they really put into it space, and it's quite tricky.
It was crowdfunded, like you said. Yeah. Oh, that's just. Yeah, it looks like that's why I thought it was like an old DOS game or something. Okay, well, I'm not very confident on this, so fuck. I'm going to say 12 or 11 and a half hours main. Main plus, I'm going to go 13 and a half hours. Why not? And then I think for 100%, I'm going to do 15 hours.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 10 hours main, 12 hours and a half main plus, and 100% 15 hours.
I think you're both massively overshooting for a point-and-click game. I'm going 8 hours, 8 hours, 9 hours. Doubly so because it's bloody well kickstarted.
I suppose. All right, let's take a look. Oh, phew. Okay. Well, yeah. So it's 9 hours main, 9.5 hours main plus extras, and 11 hours completionist, which means we're all good. Yeah, you're right,
Some of
Rick.
us skin of our teeth more than others.
Yep. But hey, at least we're there.
We're there. We managed to get those points.
Which puts me at 168, Rick at 158, and Paula's at 143. We're getting up there. We promise we're going to have a rehaul of this game soon. We've gotten your suggestions and we're mulling them over. One day when we have free time, we're going to discuss what to do with how long to beat the game. When we don't.
What is that? Is it tasty?
Yes, exactly. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, everybody. That's it for us. We'll see you next week. Toodaloo.
Take it easy.
Bye.